the idea of marriage. There are women who that is their biggest dream.
They idolize it.
Yeah, that is what they work towards. That is not my biggest dream. I can see wife being one of the modalities in which I function in.
So one of the greatest privileges of being part of this show is that I get to have amazing conversations with amazing people who are doing amazing things in their lives. And you too, you also get to enjoy these conversations consistently every week or however frequently you watch them. I just have a request that if you're here again and you've been watching this and you haven't clicked on that subscribe button, please do, as it assists us to keep getting amazing guests like the guest we're about to have a conversation with now. Also, don't forget to buy our socks from EYL Africa or this shirt I'm wearing or any of our other apparel. Keitumetse, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm fantastic. You look so beautiful.
Thank you.
Like, what can I say? I don't know if women like this compliment or not, but you can whip me if you don't like it. Right? The compliment is you look even better in real life.
Oh, no, we love that.
Okay. Some people don't like it. Some people don't like it.
I'm not like a huge makeup girly.
Yeah.
So I had to call some assistance because I'm like, I'm going somewhere. I can't look like I'm going to get water from my fridge. I must look,
Yeah. You asked me something before we started recording and asked me how I am.
Yeah.
How's your heart?
My heart is eternally grateful.
Okay.
Yeah, super grateful. I think it's very important to saturate your life with gratitude. Because then you attract more of things to be grateful for. They say when it rains, it pours. And that's only because where your energy goes, that thing flows. It flows to there and it becomes more and more and more.
Yeah.
So if bad things comes in threes, good things must certainly come in threes. But you see what the trick is, and I say this to my son all the time. The trick is good things are quiet. It's like when you have, how they say empty cans make a lot of noise?
Come on.
Right? So when you have like something that's really good, it's like a full paint can. When you drop it, it just goes, gee. And that's it. You won't hear from it again. But when you have an empty cool drink can, king, 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 king. And I think our problems are like that, or things that you deem or tag negative. They just sit there and they just make all this noise. But the really good things, they just sit quietly and they look at you. And you don't look at them because you forget about them. You're just looking at this thing that's running around and that's making noise and, flopping all over the place.
Sure.
So I think it's about intentionality, being intentional about being good, because we are all good, just like we are all bad. The one qualifies the other. It just depends what you want to focus on.
Why is gratitude the vehicle you believe that keeps you good?
Because if you're ungrateful, it's annoying.
Primarily.
it's annoying.
Yeah.
If you're not grateful, it's annoying. And I don't and the same way you can be annoyed when someone is ungrateful to you. As a human being, imagine the energy that is the universe, that is God, that is the creator. It can sense that ungratitude. And when you don't have that gratitude, then what is the thing that says, actually, let me do something else for this kid. Let me do something else for this kid. If you're just not grateful, then it's like, So I think living in gratitude for me is what inspires God to continue to bless me.
Yeah. Hey, family, quick one. As you know, our podcast is all about growth conversations. It's all about igniting your power. It's all about healing the inner parts of who we are that are difficult to deal with and difficult to manage. As we do that, we'd like your assistance in growing the platform by you subscribing, by you liking all our videos. It helps us to reach greater audiences and change more lives. Do continue enjoying the episode. Your journey wasn't always easy. Take me back 15 to 20 years ago. Where were you, and mentally were you in the same headspace? Because sometimes we build a lot of gratitude because our dreams have been accomplished. We've reached our goals. So it's easier to be grateful when you are living in your blessing, right? 20 years ago, were you living in your blessing?
20 years ago, I was in high school. 20 years ago, my dad was like, "You're going to be an engineer."
Like me.
Like you. And I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine. We're sitting outside the tuck shop, and she's like, "Your friend, but nobody engineer." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, we're going to be engineers." And then she said, "Yes, I'm going to be an engineer so that I can retire and have a flower shop, because I've never seen a florist who drives a German whip." And I was like, "Okay, well, that's fair." And I'm just like, "But then why am I an engineer? Like, why would I do this? To what end?" And I could not answer that question. And so it was like, well, then I'm just going to go with the thing that I feel called to do. I'm going to be a performer. And I sat my dad down and I said, "Hey, Dad, this is what's happening." And in turn, he sat me down and said, "Hey, girl, this is what's happening. Me and your mom are getting a divorce." So I was not in a good space.
This is
20
in
years
matric.
ago. Yeah, my parents separated when I was in matric.
Oof.
And my mom didn't take it very well, and she didn't want to be at home and cry every day in front of her kids. So she accepted the offer to go to the DRC, and she was posted there, and she was working there and only came home every second week for 3 days. And so I then was the head of a child-headed household, basically. My dad had began a new life in Vereniging. And my mom was dealing with her marriage falling apart, and she was still trying to orientate herself in that. So I think when my parents separated, that hurt, and that confusion also. I think it's maybe easier for people whose parents separate, but you saw your parents fight all the time. You saw your parents bicker, and maybe you then feel like, it sucks that they're getting divorced, but at least there'll be peace. At least they'll be happy. But my parents were the people that walked out the house and came back in matching outfits. My parents never fought. I'd never heard my parents raise their voices at each other. They still called each other boyfriend and girlfriend. So for me, it was so disorientating. Like, how do people that are this in love find themselves divorced? Is there even love? Like, can you even attain true happiness, true joy? So I really went through an existentialist kind of spell, but I didn't have time to process that because my mom is in the DRC. I have 2 younger siblings. My dad came home maybe once a month. And so I had to run the ship and make sure that my siblings were okay. And even when I started in drama school, I would drive to Wits from Pretoria North every day, get to school late, and then immediately when we're done with the rehearsal or when we're done with the whatever for the day, the last lecture, I'm running to the car and driving back in traffic so that I can sign the books and check the homework and, "Oh, you needed to get this and this for your project." Like, I was doing that. So I didn't really have the luxury of, this is my life and these are my dreams and this is what I want to do. I was just kind of like going through the motions. And then I think then I kind of like found my feet and I was like, okay, I think I'm maybe a little bit more stable now because I had my falling apart moment. I had gone to a psychologist. I had been put on medication to help me recalibrate. And then I was like, okay, I think I'm kind of finding my feet. And then a little while later, then I had my son and I was like, but this was not what we planned. This was not what we planned. And that meant I couldn't finish my master's. It meant that everything that I had booked, because I booked so many Lokshan Bioscope auditions, and I couldn't do any of them because they wouldn't insure me. They were like, no, she has high blood pressure and she's pregnant, so insurance is not taking you, so we cannot proceed with you. And I was like, my career is falling apart and it hasn't even started. So I also was then dealing with postpartum depression. There was a lot, you know. So high school, end of high school, I'm crying about my parents' divorce. Somewhere in the middle of my university studies, I'm putting a name on this weird. Actually, I was walking in the streets of Braamfontein, right?
So you studied here?
I studied at Wits University.
Okay.
I'm walking in the streets of Braamfontein from my friend's apartment because sometimes I didn't have petrol to go back home. So I would like couch surf, or then when I felt like, oh my gosh, I've been sleeping at my friend's place for too long, I would just sleep in the car because I was like, what you gonna do? Just sleep in the car, go to the swimming pool because they have showers, shower, and then carry on the day like nothing's wrong. So one morning I'm walking from my friend's flat and there's this building, one of the apartments, student apartments. They have this big window. And as I'm approaching it, I'm like, what? Who is that? Like, is that me? I was fat. None of my clothes fit. I don't even know what I was wearing. And then I got to school and I said to my friend, I'm like, you left me to walk around like that for weeks? How long have I been looking a hot mess? And she's like, no, friend, you've been going through stuff. So I thought, you know, when you become better, things will be. I'm like, but you need to say, hey, girl, you're not okay. What's going on?
Yeah.
You said nothing.
Sure,
You just left me to walk around looking the fool. What is wrong with you? And that's when I said, okay, I think I need to see a psychologist. Saw someone. It was like, okay, you're a high functioning depressive. And so that was something, because also when you think of depression, it's like, oh, you're lethargic. No. So when you're doing the things that you need to do, how can I possibly be depressed? So then I learned what that was. So then I dealt with that. And then as I was feeling like, okay, I think I'm coming towards myself, life shifted again. I became a mom. And I really did then understand what postpartum depression was, because I really struggled to connect with my son. That feeling of, oh, my baby, when he's born, I did not get that. It happened on a random Thursday afternoon. Because we used to water the garden when he was young. And I also wasn't really working. I was doing one show. It was Kharidumeli, and we shot once every 2 years. And then I would take that income and spread it out until the next time we were shooting another season. And I was walking around in the garden. I'm like, one, why would anyone choose to be a stay-home mom? Because everyone leaves the house, goes to work, goes to school, goes to wherever. And I'm just stuck with this 2-year-old. We can't have a conversation. We can't do anything. There's really only so much stimulation, me as an adult, I can get from playing with a 2-year-old, you know? And I was bored to tears. And I was just like, what is this, my life? Like, I should be doing something, but I'm just being a mom. So I was having that internal conversation while watering the garden, because I felt it was important for him to be stimulated. So we'd water the garden in the afternoon. And then I looked at him and I'm like, but that's my boy. And it is a privilege to be able to dedicate 4 years to just raising him, because there are people who give birth and next week they're back at work, you know? And so just randomly, and I was like, that's my baby. And in the time up until I first felt that feeling, I had my family and they were filling the gap, because I lived at home with my mom and my younger brother and sister, and they were there to carry the baby when he cried, feed him. When I just didn't feel like showing up as a mom, someone else would stand in the gap for me. So I do often wonder, how do women that just do it by themselves, like go IVF because I want a baby, I wonder how they do it by themselves, because it really does need a community. So your first question was, how do I remain grateful? Gratitude is not something that initially I was tapped into, but then from these pockets of moments where you're like, that's my baby and this is the privilege that I have, This is my friend who saw me going through a tough time and was like, I'm going to be there for you, even though I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to scare you. I don't want you to feel embarrassed, but I'm going to lean in. If you need a conversation, I'm going to be there. That was her being there for me. And when you realize that, oh, this was showing up for her, how can you not be grateful, So life is rough and tumble, hey? We're rolling with the punches, but we're also rolling in the blessings. The one qualifies the other. And if you're not being intentional, then you're not going to find the gratitude.
I want to push you a bit. You spoke about how what felt like the suddenness of your parents' divorce disoriented you a lot. You've also mentioned to me that you seem to be a very present mom that loves your son so much, but that means you're not married.
Yeah.
Did it disorient you too much, or did it disorient you at a level where you were even scared of commitment or how you handled being in a relationship with the father of your son?
This is a question that I feared. So the father of my son and I were friends from high school. And I remember we'd catch the bus and he'd be like, "You're going to be my girl." And I'm like, please.
I'm not your type.
Please.
You'll never get me.
Oh, please. But he was really there for me when my parents got divorced. And in my matric year, I was dating this really cool guy. But he was like, so next year when we're in varsity, we can buy a car, we can get a car together, and we'll start saving up, and then we'll get a house, and then we'll get married. And I was like, ooh, hold up. My parents looked very happy and in love. Who am I to think that I can achieve these things?
And it won't end.
And it won't end bitterly. So I left the awesome dude. I left him. I was like, dude, you're coming on too strong. Okay. And then I was with my friend. And it was like, well, we're friends. What's there to lose? But the relationship really grew and grew. And then at some point we're talking about families and building a life together. And this is the thing. I got to learn in the demise of that relationship that we can actually have a conversation and not hear each other. And it's just the wildest thing, because at some point, when we had taken the decision to break up, we remained friends. And he was dating somebody, or, it was like they were seeing each other. They weren't like serious. They were seeing each other. And he was telling me about this date that they have coming up and how excited he was to finally have a family. And I was like, what? Like my brain went, kink, 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 kink. What do you mean? You're excited to have a family? You have one.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, but you never wanted to get married. And I'm like, didn't we talk about building a life together? I don't know, like, we had this whole conversation. And he's like, yeah, but after your parents got divorced, you didn't want to get married. I'm like, did you ask me to marry you? Because I would have definitely said yes. The idea of marriage, there are women who, that is their biggest dream.
They idolize it.
Yeah, that is what they work towards. That is not my biggest dream. But it is something that, because I'm a multifaceted, dynamic individual who has been composed and made up of all these different modalities, I can see wife being one of the modalities in which I function in, especially because I had this conversation with you. Like, my mind was there. Like, what do you mean? And so when we had that conversation, I was just like, this is how people can have conversations and just not hear each other. And so that's why we never got married, because in his mind, I didn't want to. And he had always wanted to. And there's a lot that I'm still confused about.
Yeah.
With regards to that relationship, but we never got married. And it's not necessarily because I'm afraid of marriage, because I've come to learn, or it's an obvious fact, but sometimes you need to learn the obvious. I am not my mom. I am not my dad.
Come on.
And I will have my own life, depending on what I choose, because everything we choose. I recently started doing fascial somatic work.
Mm-hmm.
And the one instructional video, the guy was saying, your body is a subconscious. And I had never really been able to locate where the subconscious is. But the idea about the body remembers, the body never forgets, your muscle memory, and those things that happen to you that live in your body. I mean, I was listening to another podcast, and there was a guy who became paraplegic because on Christmas Eve or Thanksgiving, something like that, his parents were driving from family, they were driving home, and their car hit the snow and just
It toppled
over.
Yeah.
And in that crash, this man, now a man, he was a boy then, his dad and his sister died. And he also lost all functionality from the neck down. But he was asleep. And so he didn't consciously see or experience the accident, but his body was awake. His subconscious was there to witness the breaking of bones, the shifting of things, the loss of functionality. And in his healing journey, that's what he realized, that I was asleep, but my body was not. It was awake and aware of it all. So the things that our body carries, these are the things that I've lost my train of thought now. Where was I going with this?
You'll find it. Come on.
What was your question?
The question was around
why I don't want to get married. So then I learned that in taking in all of these things, then I was like, but I am my own person.
Yeah.
And yes, the traumas that have existed, right? And also traumas to my body because, I have had and I think a lot of women can say that they've had very precarious relationship with sex and sexuality and whatever traumas that might also leave on the body. So even though those things exist, right? Even though the subconscious, if in this instance we say is the body, will have experienced things, sometimes we choose from that point of knowing. Like your mind wants one thing, but your body remembers another thing. And so you make choices according to your subconscious. And so we're always choosing. And so for me, my current life work is to get into alignment. So get all my choosing faculties in the same line, because I can consciously choose something, but my body remembers, oh, this was the street where I was mugged. And so chooses to feel unsafe, for example. I should have actually prefaced that with trigger warning.
Yes.
Oops, sorry. But this was a street where something really bad happened to me. And so I choose to freeze up and whatever. And so then that shifts my vibration. And just like they say, if you are afraid of the dog will come after you. It's that vibratory thing. So if you get your body into alignment with your brain, you can fully make different choices. So yeah, I suppose maybe I am looking for love. I don't know.
Hint, nudge. Those who are watching. Something more amazing. On a lighter note.
Yeah.
When you walked in here, my brother here, TKJ, said, "You're so and so from Champions."
Yes.
Which is a big TV show on a big TV station. Firstly, was that your big break? And if not, what was the big break that made you realize, finally, I wasn't crazy by believing in myself in this career?
I think Champions was the first show where I felt seen. It really was the first show where I felt seen. Because before that, my big break was a sitcom on the national carrier called Dumele. It was a really big sitcom at the time. And that was what I did. But I always did that in tandem with studying. I did that in tandem with running my household. I did that in tandem with other things. So I never felt the pressure of, oh, I need to be a working actress, So I never took the time to really relish in what that was as a show and my big break. But then soon after I finished studying, we had shot another season of Dumele. And then I took the 4 years to be at home with my son. And then when I felt, okay, he's big enough, he can go to creche and report to me if anything bad happens. Because, maybe I have trust issues.
Yeah.
Then he went to creche and I was like, children mimic. Children follow the example
Mm-hmm.
of their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot dare to say to him, dream big, bold dreams and not go after my own, you know? So then I was like, okay, now I'm trying to get back into the industry. Oh, you don't have enough followers. Oh, who are you anyway? Oh, you speak funny. You only speak Setswana? Oh no, like you're just running into all of these things. And then it's like, maybe I don't got it. Like, and everyone who wants to casts you in like this small little cameo role. And then you come and you do the small little role and they're like, oh, but you're good. And it's like, yeah, yeah, I went to school and everything, but nobody wants to bet on you. You know, I auditioned for a really big soapy, and the casting director had actually phoned my agent to say, I was about to call you and say, we're booking Keitu, but on my way to call you, I got called into my boss's office, and he said, we're giving the job to someone else. Just like that, because nobody knows Keitu. And for me, that was so hurtful because Kharudumeli was on the same channel. Like, maybe if it was another channel, we could say I'm not famous enough for that channel, but not this channel, not this show. And then they asked me to audition for something else. And they're like, yeah, she's good, but we need to start her off on like a much smaller role and build her up that way. And I was like, damn, Dad, you were right. I should have been an engineer because, oh my gosh, I can't even move out of my mom's house at this stage. So when I booked Champions, the year before, I had a conversation with self and God and said, you know what? I'm going to really go for this thing. I'm giving it one more year. And if nothing comes to fruition, then I'll just look for a corporate job, be it in sales or whatever. I'll just call it a day. And then I booked Champions. Or even when I was called into the audition, it was fine. The audition was okay. And then when I got to the callback and you walk into the room and it's these big, big names, and you're like, oh, they see me. And so I gave that character everything I had because I felt that that was necessary for people who see me. Let me see them too.
Yeah.
And I hope that's translated. I've got a lot of good feedback from people like, oh, they really like the show and the performance. And I think also that performance particularly was a dedication to my mom because Ngele is such, like, she loves her kids. She'll do everything for her kids. God-fearing woman. And I was like, this is my mom. And so it was an opportunity for me to tip my hat to my mom, who is all about, she's like my biggest fan.
You said you had a conversation with self and God that if this doesn't happen, I'm selling Avon.
Yeah.
One more year.
Yeah. Yes.
You said if this doesn't happen, I'm selling that Tupperware.
Yes.
Somebody's sitting there watching this, feeling defeated. They're in their one more year season. I am tired of waiting, God. My heart is depleted. My mental health is deteriorated because I thought I should go to school for this. God, I thought you said if I graduate, you will bless me.
Yeah.
I thought you said if I give myself to something, you will open doors. Why should I wait one more year?
See, the trick is not waiting. Waiting is a passive exercise, right? Your life doesn't call for you to be passive. You have to be an active participant in that thing. Okay? So while you are in your waiting season, and look, I had given it a year, but understand that something that you're called for needs so many things to come into place. If you are not obedient as well as you are, that also delays my ish, you know, because I wasn't born on a rock where I'm alone. We're born here with billions of other people because it is a network. We are working together. So sometimes it's not all on you. Sometimes it's the person that you need to collaborate with who needs to get their ish in order. And be grateful that they're getting their ish in order, because you don't want to meet that person in the wrong timing, you know? So there's also that. But while you're waiting, are you pursuing curiosity? Are you remaining curious? Because I think if we remain curious, then we're available. Like something that doesn't seem like a big deal.
Yeah.
great things start from there, where it's like, oh, I really didn't think much of this.
Mm-hmm.
And now look what it is, Like the lady who developed Spanx. She just cut holes into her pantyhose one day and played around with it. And now look. I mean, that seems like such a benign, banal thing to do. But it starts from that seemingly nothing. So while you're at home and you're waiting for the big thing, what is a small thing that is currently available? There's always something that is available. And even if it doesn't directly lead you to the big thing, what I've come to learn is that life loves the meandering path because it's actually not about the summit. Because the hike is when you get to the top of the hike and you see the view, you're like, oh, wow. But the fun was not when you get to the view. The fun was that friend who almost tripped and that one who had to, and we ran away from a snake. Oh my gosh, that frog scared us. All of that is what makes the hike fun. And then you get to the summit, you're like, wow, that was all worth it. Mm-hmm. So that meandering path that you're on, nothing is in vain. You're always learning something about yourself, about other people, about how to position yourself. You're acquiring skills. Nothing is ever wasted, especially if you're remaining active. Don't just sit. Because when you just sit, when movement ceases, that's when life stops.
Sis Keitu, you're just saying this because you're there. You're a big star now.
Oh wow!
People know you, and I'm sitting here. I haven't bought myself underwear in 4 years.
Yeah.
and I don't have money to do anything. I feel stuck. And you're telling me that I must enjoy the journey. I've got no journey to enjoy. I've been in a journey.
Yeah, but I think also it's how tightly we hold on to things, right? We have to loosen our grip. We have to loosen our grip a little bit to our dreams, to our goals, to our ambitions. Why? Because that thing that you're holding on so tightly to, it caters to but one of the many modalities that you are. Many, many modalities. You are not just a career person. Mm-hmm. You are not just a family member. You are not just a friend. But we want to, because we give prominence to these boxes. Who am I socially? Who am I romantically? Who am I relationally? Who am I professionally? Who am I economically? Who am I? We give prominence to these boxes, but I'm also someone spiritually. I'm like, if there was no purpose for me and my existence, believe you me, I would be somewhere else. I don't know. Maybe I'd be living with whatever lives in Venus. I don't know what's living in Venus, but maybe I'd be there. Maybe I'd be on Galaxy 55. I wouldn't be here on Earth, on this planet. The fact that I'm here means that there's something that I can do. And there are many different modalities, many different ways in which I exist here. And I'm holding on to this one thing, like this way of existing has to happen. And maybe if you loosen up your grip a little bit, you might see that this way of existing can happen through that way of existing. And actually, it doesn't look like what I thought it would look like. It looks different because we're on the lookout maybe for the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And that's why you're not enjoying the journey. Yeah. That's why you're lost. You're on the lookout for the black mug. When I see the black mug, but how many can say that we all see black differently? There are even shades of black. Sure. And so when I say, when you see the black mug, turn left, that black mug might actually look olive to you. Mm. You're like, no, but it was an olive mug. Mm. No, that was the black mug I was talking about. Sometimes we're looking out for the wrong thing. So if you loosen up your grip a little bit, you'll be flexible. You'll be able to, follow the curiosities, say yes to the invitations, because everything that you're invited to do can only serve you. Just choose to remind yourself that everything in your life is here to serve you. Even this period of poverty, even this period of seeming failure, everything in our lives is here to serve me. The time when I couldn't afford to buy underwear for 4 years, that time served me because now I know the value of X, Y, and Z. Now I know that I can be resourceful. Now I wouldn't have known that otherwise. Sure. I wouldn't have known that I can leverage relationships without that experience. So there is always something that you're gaining. Everything is here to serve you. You just have to choose how it serves you because you're the master of your life, right? So if you say, poverty, this is how you're going to serve me. In this season, you're teaching me X, Y, and Z. And you're intentional. You'll learn those things. And then it will no longer serve you. And then the thing that is next available to serve you will arrive.
Sis Nambita Mpumlana sat on that couch in the last quarter of 2024, and she said she's been called a diva, and she had to remove the stigma of diva to realize that being a diva actually means people are acknowledging that you acknowledge your worth and who you are. Now that you've been in big productions, do you find it difficult as a Black woman to stand your ground about things you don't want in the space behind the scenes?
I think because I have the view that everything serves me, there's not a lot that I don't want.
Okay.
What I will absolutely not stand for is disrespect for myself and to other people. I have no taste for it. I have my threshold is here for disrespect. It's like really on the floor. I have a very low threshold for disrespect. I have a very low threshold for violence. And to that end, I'm not going to involve myself in a shouting match. I have no appetite for it. You know, like when you just don't eat bread and they have all this spread, it doesn't appeal to you. You're not even going to walk in that direction. So there's very little that I won't stand for, because everything is here to serve me. And so maybe that makes me a little bit foolish, because I will dip my toe and be like, oh, that was not a nice experience. But at least I know. I know, not because I've heard. I know for my own knowing, my embodied learning. I know, oh, okay, this is what this looks like. I think also sometimes the things that you will not stand for, right? You also have a clear idea of what that looks like. But sometimes it comes in looking a little bit different, and so you don't recognize it. And so we interface with these things and we negotiate. Someone once said to me, life is what you get out of life what you're willing to negotiate. And I was like, oh, okay. So even the thing that I don't like, what is the negotiation? There's a negotiation available here. Like, okay, I'm willing to tolerate this, but up to this point. How do I respectfully say to this person, oh, I've given you a leash and this is how long your leash is, it's done. That's also its own kind of thing. I think for me, my aim is to live life leading with love. And because of that, I'm very tolerant of a lot.
Yeah.
And so it is not always for my betterment, because sometimes I do get, scratched and burned a little bit. But then I know. And I'm also so forgiving, because I'm even as a mom, when my son would do stuff, my first question is why? Why did you do this like that? Because then I also get to understand, was this malicious? Was this, were you innocently trying to do something and then you find yourself trampling all over me? And then I also know how to negotiate. Okay, well, then I don't think that what you were hoping to do, you didn't achieve that, because this is how I've experienced it. So what can we do differently next time? And if the person's not interested in doing things differently next time, they're not interested in having a relationship with me. And therefore, we move accordingly. Yeah.
Who do you pray to?
I pray to God. I was raised Christian Lutheran. I'm currently in like a little bit of a dance with Christianity. Someone last year said to me, you do realize that you're not Christian, right? If you don't believe that Jesus died for your sins, you do believe that means you're not Christian.
That sounds like a Karen who said that.
No, it wasn't. And I get that. I'm currently just having a little bit of, it's tricky for me to say that without Jesus, basically I'm worthless. I can't take that in and fully hold on to that as a belief, because Christians believe in the triune God, and Jesus is but one focus of who God is. And even Jesus prayed to God, so I keep my eyes up to God, because I think there's something about humanity and this human flesh that is imperfect and has, its little problems. And I don't know if it's the semantics around Jesus. I don't quite know where the issues are, but I'm just aware that humanity is flawed. And so because of that, I'm not going to tap out of a relationship with God. I'm going to stay in Christianity and find my ways, even though maybe I don't subscribe to what other people think Christianity should look like. But it's a relationship between me and my maker. It's personal. It doesn't have to be public.
And what's your most dominant prayer to God?
Lord, keep me in alignment. Let your will be my will, and that will be done. Yeah.
Just keep me in what I believe is my purpose.
Yeah.
Because it is your purpose for me.
Yes. Let the purpose that I see, because there's a purpose that I think I have, let that match with why you made me here on earth to live in 2025, to be a member of this family in Gauteng, in South Africa, on this planet Earth. There's a reason why you put me here. There's a reason why we agreed for me to come here, because I do believe we're always choosing, right? And I believe God is also experiencing a life through each and every one of us. So nothing is wasted. Even people who do atrocious things, God can never, my view, God can't experience the purity of God without there being what we deem evil or darkness. Like, light cannot be there if you don't have something to compare it to. And we're in this world that has duality. And so in this duality world, there's a reason why I'm here. Let the reason I think I'm here align with the reason why I'm here, why you have brought me here or created me to be here, and let that be what happens. And I'm so open to that changing, because why I'm here, like, just like the world is revolving on its axis, even our purpose is ever evolving, because it's this matrix of connections. When you choose something differently, that affects my purpose, because now you've moved in a different direction. So suddenly a new path becomes available. And so my purpose can shift. I don't hold on too tightly to what I think things need to be, because I think the fun is in the journey too.
In that spirit of understanding purpose and who you are, I like to get into this notion of understanding your absolutes. And what I mean about that is, what's that one thing in life you know for sure and you're absolutely certain of?
My sister hates me because she says to me, well, for this, let me finish the sentence properly. She hates me for this because she'll say, do you know X, Y, and Z? I'm like, no. And she's like, why? And I'll say to her, the only thing I'm sure of is that I am Keitumetse Kasankola. Everything else is a hypothesis. That's the only thing I know for sure. I am Keitumetse Kasankola. That's it. That's what I can tell you for sure. Because there was a stage where I was Keitumetse Kasankola and I was a daddy's girl. And then 2 weeks before my dad's 60th birthday, he checked out of this existence. And now I can't be Keitumetse Kasankola, who's a daddy's girl, without a living dad. What is that? What does that even mean? You know? So the only thing I'm sure of is that I am me. And I'm very open to also knowing that I don't know the full lengths and breadths of who this me is. It's just fun finding out.
Sometimes it's good to come to the reality that even your beliefs might change as you grow older, as you find yourself more, because in that change is the beauty of becoming. Keitu spoke about it being a journey that we keep on pivoting, restarting, starting over again, failing, coming back up. And if you're not open-minded to changing and consistently repivoting, you might find yourself consistently depressed and not understanding who you are and what your purpose is here for. Keitu, thank you so much for coming to Engineer Your Life. It was truly a privilege to have you. I can't wait for you to come in a new season of your life. We will be here. I can promise you that, because we are committed to these conversations that grow people.
Thank you so much for having me. What an honor to be a part of these conversations.
Yeah.
You're doing amazing work. And everybody at home who's streaming from wherever you are, in your car, in your shower, on the road, wherever, you too are doing amazing work, even in your little pocket of reality. So keep at it.
The show is Engineer Your Life. I'm Lungelo, KM. I'll see you on the next growth conversation. Kholwa emandleni onawo. Oh my, we're finally doing this. What does EYL Africa represent? It's about standing in your power. It's about, in isiZulu, it's kholwa emandleni onawo, which is our tagline. You will see it on the back of my t-shirts. It's about believing in the power that you have, believing in the power that your God, your guides have invested in you. Shop our socks, shop our t-shirt, and yeah, just keep believing in yourself. EYL Africa. Now available on EYLshop.Africa.